Here's the situation. U.S. warships are stationed off the shore of Yemen, and there is a warning to Iran in that statement about shipping weapons to Houthi rebels who have been wreaking havoc on Yemen, assuming that that is true, that Iran has been doing that. So how will this situation affect ongoing nuclear talks? What should the U.S. role be in that situation? And do we even have the authority to do any of this? Now, Congress had an opportunity to debate this and authorize military force against ISIS. Hasn't taken those opportunities yet. Is it going to change? Let's discuss with members of Congress themselves. Adam Schiff, ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, and Congressman Tom Cole, the Deputy Majority Whip for the Republicans. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us on New Day this morning. I see that you are each adorned in the tie color of the opposite party. Let's assume that that means there is some type of equity going to be here this morning, some kind of joining. When you look, let's start with the beginning, which is the authorization of use of force. Why, I'll start with you, Congressman Schiff, why hasn't there been a vote yet? Why isn't this happening when obviously this strategy is not settled and not working?
Well, I don't know how to explain it except that we have a convergence of interest. For a long time, the administration took the position it didn't need it, didn't really necessarily want to force this issue on Congress. It has now proposed a draft, but at the same time, there are many in Congress who just don't want to have to vote on this in case things go badly. None of that is an adequate answer, though. This is our institutional role. The Constitution gives us the power to declare war, and if we don't live up to that responsibility now, we set a very dangerous precedent, I think, in the future that presidents can make war with or without the blessing of Congress.
Deputy Majority Whip, why don't you shame your members into taking their responsibility? If they want to criticize, they should debate and vote as well.
Well, you know, the process in some ways has begun. We have had hearings, but I agree with you, and I agree very much with my friend. The administration initially didn't want this. Quite frankly, Democratic leaders didn't want to vote on it before an election. It is a divisive issue, and there's not a consensus here that the president's proposed resolution for the authorization of the use of force is strong enough. So I get all this, but I think Adam makes the right point. At the end, constitutional authority is like a muscle. You either use it or you lose it, and frankly, Congress is in danger of losing war-making authority if it doesn't act.
And look, this has been going on for a long time, but we're also dealing with it right now. And a little bit of the irony here, Representative Schiff, is that when it comes to making the deal with Iran, you could very well argue that the president has unilateral executive authority there, and yet Congress is getting involved. But they won't get involved on the bigger issue of the use of military force overall. So let's shift to what's going on with Iran and that situation. As you look at the talks as they restart today, do you believe the U.S. has been suckered into these talks on nukes with Iran, while Iran is also running roughshod everywhere else in the world and kind of tying the hands of the U.S. to do anything about it?
No, I don't think the U.S. has been suckered into talks. I do think that the administration has, as well as Iran, tried to compartmentalize the Iran talks so that other very strident and important differences don't prevent us from seeing whether a deal is possible that does away with Iran's nuclear weapons program. Now, that remains to be seen. There's still significant differences left, and we may or may not have a deal. But the fact is that even if there is a deal, it's not going to stop the fact that we have to confront Iran's effort to be a hegemon in the region, their malicious efforts in places like Yemen, as well as Syria and other places in the region. So this isn't going to be the end with this confrontation in the water, and I don't think it's going to mean the end, even if there is an agreement on the nuclear issue.
Representative Cole, the said on behalf of them and their partners, that means you guys, the United States government, that Operation Decisive Storm has achieved its goals, and they outlined these 5 points of what they were trying to get done in Yemen, and they say they did it. It's almost a laughable assertion given the situation in Yemen. Why is the United States being party to what's going on with Saudi Arabia there? Do you think it's the best move for your national interest?
Well, first of all, we're not their only partner. Frankly, I think they have a great deal of... We are a partner. I think they have a great deal of mistrust of the United States simply because of the Iranian negotiation. I was actually there recently and dealt with senior Saudi officials literally 2-3 weeks ago as this Yemen operation was beginning. But their most reliable partners are the other Sunni states, the Egyptians, the Gulf states, the UAE. They're all there with them. We need to be there as well. Frankly, I think this is a case where the Iranians are overreaching. I think they're causing a great deal of trouble in Yemen. This is a place place, frankly, the president called a success story a few months ago. Now we had to leave with our tails between our legs. So I think working with our allies and checking Iranian aggression is the right thing to do. I'm glad we've taken an aggressive posture, and frankly, I hope we continue to do so.
Well, although Representative Cole is kind of arguing the president's case here a little bit, how do you see this as an aggressive posture, Congressman Schiff? You know, the Houthis are running all over Yemen. Whether or not the Iranians are, supporting them with arms, we don't even know. We haven't even heard any of what gives you that intelligence in government. How does the U.S. look strong in Yemen right now?
Well, look, I'm confident of the intelligence that Iran has been providing weapons as well as military advice and support to the Houthis, notwithstanding Iranian claims to the contrary. And I think it's important, as my colleague says, that we have the Saudis back, that we support them through intelligence, logistics, and with this show of force in the region in terms of our naval presence. That doesn't mean that we want to necessarily participate in airstrikes or have our own ground troops there. I don't think that would be productive, and I don't think that's what the Saudis want either. But I do think it's vitally important that we show the Gulf states that we're willing to stand up to Iran and their malicious actions in the region, whether there's a nuclear negotiation going on or not.
Last question. When do both of you think there will be a vote, a debate and vote on the AUMF?
I don't have a precise date. I just think sooner is better. I think, we need to begin the process. In a sense, it already has begun. We've had hearings in the appropriate committees. But I think you just work through a schedule and let Congress work its will. I think we could come to a consensus. But, again, if we don't do this, we're essentially ceding authority to the executive branch. That's not just bad with this president. Frankly, it's bad with any president. It's just something Congress shouldn't do, and the next president will cite this as a precedent.
Tom Cole, Adam Schiff, thank you to both of you for being on New Day. Important issues. We look forward to seeing action on them.
Thanks, Chris.
Allison.